All right, hey, good morning, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Monday, November 7th, 2022. This is your morning update on what is now Sub-Tropical Storm Nicole. Located about 500 miles off the coast of the Bahamas, Sub-Tropical Storm Nicole is forecast to become a hurricane over the next couple days as she approaches the Florida Peninsula. Heavy impacts expected for the Florida coastline and into parts of the southeast U.S. throughout this week and into the weekends. We've been talking about the storm for a couple of days. This video this morning is going to be a quick overview. We're just going to quickly walk you through the Hurricane Center's forecast. We're not going to get on the weather mumbo jumbo. We're going to talk impacts, and then we'll have a second video this morning with a little more of the weather rambling and stuff that you put on when you want the dog to think somebody's home or whatever y'all do with these videos. I can't imagine you're actually watching them. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it since time is of the essence. We have the morning forecast for Subtropical Storm Nicole, named at 5 a.m., the 14th named storm of the 2022 season. Nicole's packing winds of 45 miles an hour this morning in a very broad swath. Big storm for sure. But this is the Hurricane Center's forecast. We are showing that northwest motion happening until about Tuesday night and then a bend back down to the southwest. Nicole's going to come up and then be pushed south by high pressure. They're going to move across the Bahamas, where more intensification is expected Wednesday into Wednesday night, where we think Nicole's probably going to become a hurricane at this point and lose those subtropical characteristics and will landfall likely as a hurricane somewhere on the east coast of Florida. I want to remind everybody that the last hurricane to hit the east coast of Florida, if you can believe it, was Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Yes, that Katrina, the Katrina, the Katrina. That's how long ago it's been since a hurricane hit the east coast of Florida. This is something that has not happened in quite a long time, guys. There are kids with driver's licenses that weren't alive when a hurricane hit the east coast of Florida. So folks down here need to be aware that this is the first time in a while this has happened, and it's best to be on your toes. And I know it's November. I know this is ridiculous, but it's what we got to deal with. So, Hurricane Center is explicitly forecasting that hurricane watches are up for the Bahamas and the east coast of Florida from the Volusia Brevard County line down to about Hollandale Beach. And notice how far north those tropical storm watches go, all the way into southeast Georgia. Nicole will be a very north-weighted storm. It's mixing with what we would consider a nor'easter storm. So we would have a nor'easter this week, regardless if Nicole existed or not. But we also are going to have Nicole on top of that. So the effects from Nicole are definitely going to be weighted on the north side, and especially with this recurve, tropical storm conditions are possible up throughout northern Florida and South Georgia, even into the Carolinas, possible over the next couple of days. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the rough idea of how this looks in the GFS. Again, I'm not going to go into all the models and crazy stuff, but again, you see Nicole developing here near the Bahamas on Monday, Monday night into Tuesday. The storm kind of peaks up at as far north as it's going to get. But look at what's happening. High pressure develops over the Carolinas and the Appalachians. Strong high pressure. This, again, would be a nor'easter regardless, but you have a low pressure here, high pressure up there, strong funneling of winds between them. And this is a brutal northeast wind that's going to be persistent for days across Florida's peninsula. We're talking about a lot of coastal flooding, a lot of erosion, and wind, rain, of course, all associated with that. And then, of course, we'll have Nicole's actual impacts as well moving in. So you're going to have this big, broad swath of strong winds on the north side, and then a core of stronger tropical storm or hurricane force winds coming for parts of south central Florida over the coming days. But Nicole begins to dip southward on Wednesday. This is where we think the intensification is likely going to happen. We're going to see the uptick there, and we think she'll become a hurricane sometime around the northern Bahamas or over the Gulf Stream between the Bahamas and Florida. And then that landfall is expected late Wednesday night into Thursday. Thursday morning, the landfall right now is expected. And then so you go into Thursday, Friday, a big trough swings in from the west, and Nicole begins to recurve either over the state or just offshore in the Gulf of Mexico, and then recurves back over northern Florida, South Georgia, and then rakes across the Carolinas as she races back out to sea Friday night, Saturday, and then throughout the weekend, and then much colder air comes in behind that, and the threat is then over. So that's kind of the latest on the broad brush of what this may look like. Intensity models again have trended more northward towards that Category 1 hurricane intensity. The Hurricane Center is actually above most of these models this morning. I think they'll catch up later on today, and this lines up well with the track models and your ensemble models, almost all now showing that dip into Florida. The situations where Nicole would recurve offshore are likely not going to happen. The timing of the trough just looks like Nicole is going to not catch her ride until she's out here. I want to note that the storm does get into the Gulf of Mexico. Intensification is not likely. It's not likely to re-intensify very much. The water there is not particularly warm right now, and the wind shear from that trough will be picking up. So we think think that Nicole's peak will be just offshore of Florida on the East Coast, and it probably won't re-intensify. But some big impacts are coming for the coast of Florida. This is the Weather Prediction Center's forecast for rainfall, 3 to 5 inches right now, and some folks will be seeing more than that. I think down here in South Florida, I think these totals will come up a little bit more with that tropical core of rain coming on shore. You can see, 4 to 8 inches of rain down here, but 3 to 5 is a good call from much of the peninsula of Florida, and the rainfall totals dramatically fall off with that dry air to the west. So if you're west of Nicole's track, which is something like this, then your rainfall totals are much less. And also notice your rainfall totals much less to the south, where that nor'easter isn't affecting you. You have much less rainfall totals down here in Miami, and the Keys won't be getting a whole lot from Nicole. So if you live south of Nicole, you don't have to be very far south to get out of the worst. If you live north of Nicole, it really doesn't matter how far north you live. If you live in the state of Florida, you're probably getting crapped on as long as you live in the peninsula of Florida. So regardless of that, GFS rainfall totals pretty similar, 3 to 5 inch range for most. I think these again will come up a little bit more, but there's some swaths like you see here of higher winds. Rainfall. Wind forecast, we're going to use the GFS. It is trending higher. Potential for wind gusts well over 60 miles an hour. Hurricane force wind gusts possible across Lake Okeechobee and the east coast of Florida where this makes landfall. I think high gusts are possible across much of Florida. Nicole will be moving at a pretty good clip, so she won't lose a ton of intensity as she comes across, and she could carry that hurricane intensity and that strong core of winds throughout much of the state. But look at the swath of 40, 45, and 50-mile-an-hour winds for most of the northern part of Florida. These will be long-term, persistent, gusty winds. It's going to start Tuesday night. It's going to last Wednesday. It's going to last Thursday. It's going to last Friday, and could be even into Saturday. And you see the potential for that recurve there, where some strong winds across the northern Florida peninsula, northeast Florida region is possible as well. Wind gusts 55, 65 miles an hour possible. Depending on the final track, though, and that remains to be seen. But definitely some tropical storm force winds are possible for the entire Florida peninsula over the next couple days, and then hurricane force winds are possible near the landfall point on Thursday morning when Nicole makes landfall. European wind gust forecast. European is trending weaker than the GFS right now. I think it'll catch up, but another look at your potential wind gusts. I think the wind gusts up here look a bit better to me. I think the potential for 45-mile-an-hour winds for most of the southern half of Georgia, a lot of the Carolina coast, and all the Florida peninsula is likely. A lot of wind is coming. And the surge predictions, 3 to 5 feet expected from much of the Florida coastline. That is a lot of storm surge. And look how far north. Again, 5 feet of surge is possible all the way up into Georgia. I mean, this is going to be a big surge maker, and a lot of coastal flooding is expected because that wind is going to start days before the storm even gets here and pile up that water. And then the storm shows up. It's going to be a rough couple days, and a lot of coastal flooding is expected. A lot of these folks that got coastal flooding from Ian are going to be looking at a repeat here with Nicole, given the pattern setup, and essentially there's some serious potential for flooding along the St. Johns River Basin, St. Augustine area for us in Northeast Florida. That's going to be a big concern. So that's what I got for you guys this morning on your quick update on Nicole. I will have another video up this morning with more of the weather stuff if you want to get into all that, but that's the latest on the broad brush. So as always, guys, appreciate you watching and have a good one.